Picture this. You walk into work, open your email, and there it is. A message from your boss saying you're under investigation. No details, no explanation, just threats. Your heart pounds. Your career feels like it's hanging by a thread. But what if I told you, this boss picked the wrong person to mess with? And what followed was one of the most satisfying workplace revenge stories you'll ever hear. If you've ever had a toxic boss who thought they were untouchable, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story proves that even the biggest bully can fall when people unite against them. I'd been a nurse for over 25 years. By that time, I was no rookie, no wide-eyed newbie. I'd seen it all, long nights, medical crises, and more drama than any soap opera could handle. But nothing prepared me for this job. From the moment I joined this unit, something felt off. Most of the staff were incredibly young, fresh out of school. For many, it was their very first job. They didn't realize how strange things really were, because they had nothing to compare it to. And that's exactly how Dorian, our nurse manager, liked it. On the surface, he was this big, intimidating man. But beneath that, he was manipulative, controlling, and dangerous. He had this golden rule: no incident reports allowed. Why? Because it made him look bad in meetings. So safety violations swept under the rug. Medication errors ignored. Even non-clinical staff, people with zero qualifications, were passing out medications to patients. It was chaos. And worse, it was toxic. Cliques formed, people whispered, and the entire workplace reeked of fear. But for me, the real trouble began with one single email. I opened my inbox one morning to find a cold, curt message from Dorian. You are under investigation for a workplace incident. HR will meet with you to discuss possible disciplinary action. You are not to speak of this incident to anyone. No details, no dates, no patient record numbers. Just a vague, threatening accusation. My stomach dropped. My hands shook as I read it again and again. I replied politely, asking for clarification, basic information. Dorian flat out refused. Instead, he doubled down. Meet with HR immediately. I refused. The next day, another email, harsher than another, and another. Each one more threatening, each one designed to break me down. I printed every single one. And then I called my sister, who just so happened to be an employment attorney. I knew this was intimidation 101, but even knowing that didn't stop the pit in my stomach. The racing heartbeat, the anxiety every time I logged into my email. I couldn't keep it bottled up. So one day I vented in the break room, and that's when it happened. 3 other women approached me. Each one had received the exact same email. The same day. Almost the same time, sent just minutes apart. None of us worked the same shifts. None of us worked the same days. But all of us? Targeted. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about one incident. This was Dorian's game. He would target women, send them these vague threats, push them into HR meetings, then corner them into signing non-disclosure agreements. And worst of all, nobody had ever thought to bring in the union rep. Nobody knew their Weingarten rights. But this time, he picked the wrong 4 women. The more we talked, the more stories came out. Tears were shed. Rage bubbled up. And slowly a plan began to form. We started documenting everything. LGBTQ staff wrote statements about his openly homophobic remarks, sometimes even in front of patients. Immigrant staff revealed he'd made racial slurs against them. One staff member, bless her petty, meticulous heart, had been keeping a dossier of every single policy violation he'd made since the day he was hired. The night shift crew, big, strong guys, said, "He never intimidates us, but we've got your back." They scoured his social media and found posts dripping with hate, misogyny, xenophobia, transphobia. Screenshots were saved, and then came the jackpot: a background check, DUI, failure to appear in court, hit and run, domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon. The man wasn't just toxic at work, he was toxic everywhere. Finally, 2 women came forward with the most damning accusations: sexual harassment. One incident witnessed by an assistant manager, another backed by emails. We weren't just building a case, we were building a bomb, and soon we'd drop it on HR. We coordinated with our union rep. Each complaint, each accusation would hit HR like clockwork, one after another. Monday, I went first. I reported intimidation and harassment. HR barely reacted, brushed it off like they'd seen this before. Tuesday, LGBTQ staff filed their complaints. Then the racial discrimination cases came in. HR started looking tired. Wednesday, we hit them with the background check, the policy violations, and the sexual harassment evidence. One after another, HR's walls crumbled. By the end of the week, HR wasn't brushing anything off anymore. They assured us no lawyers would be needed. They'd handle it. That weekend, Dorian's office was quietly cleaned out. Everything gone, except his name tag. By Monday morning, the higher-ups themselves arrived on the unit. The chief nursing officer, the COO, HR. Their message was simple, direct, and glorious. Effective immediately, Dorian is no longer employed by this hospital. We sat in silence, stunned. Then cheers erupted, people hugged. Some laughed, some cried. High fives echoed down the hallways. Years of fear and pain released in one overwhelming wave of joy. And that wasn't all. 3 days later, Kip, the program manager, was fired too, for covering up harassment and being a harasser himself. Shortly after, Dr. Steve, the clinical director, was also fired for, you guessed it, sexual harassment. The entire toxic empire crumbled. Dorian never worked as a nurse again. Frankly, I couldn't care less. The unit, unfortunately, brought in another manager with his own shady past. That was my cue to leave. I moved on, as did most of the staff. And you know what? We all ended up in better places. Happier, healthier, free. So when I sat in that job interview and the manager asked me, "What do you consider the greatest accomplishment of your career?" I smiled, sat up straight, and said, "I took a fractured, broken team and united them to take down a tyrant. My greatest accomplishment? I built a team that fought for justice." Sometimes, revenge isn't about one person striking back. It's about people standing together, refusing to stay silent and proving that no bully is too big to fall. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or dreamed of pulling off? And don't forget to subscribe, because here at the Payback Room, we believe justice always finds a way.